Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. Paula Howell joining us here again, the owner and educational counselor at Howell Academics, based out of Vancouver, British Columbia. She's here to talk more about how Howell Academics offers unparalleled expertise in guiding families through the process of school admissions, and she specializes in so many different ages. We're starting in preschool these days. She can help you with your little one all the way up to lower, middle, upper schools, and also with advanced degrees in education. So she has a lot of experience. She joins us here once again, howellacademics.com. That's HOWEL academics.com. And please welcome back today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. It's always really lovely to kind of have, the opportunity to connect, and especially in this mode, and be able to have just candid conversations about, I always like to say, education and beyond.
I agree. Well, thank you for being here. So for those new timers, just tell us a little bit of the background of what you do, and then we'll get into today's topics for sure.
So I'm an education consultant, and I work with families anywhere from children that have ages 0 all the way up to university. And our main starting point is we meet our families based on the idea that they want to apply to private school. But within that process, we support everything from family dynamic to human behavior, looking at limiting beliefs in children, how to build confidence, and then also at times repair marriages in between. So it is a very, very interesting industry for sure.
Great. Well, thank you for being back here and joining us. What avenue did you want to kind of explore today about these, the work and the families and the children you're helping?
I think the biggest thing is really taking a step back and really thinking about the idea of what our goals are for children and what that means as parents, and just having a candid conversation about how we can have something in our heart initially when we think about having a child, or that day we discover that we're going to be parents, no matter how that comes to us. And then actually what the reality is and what that means, that reality, once it actually is part of our, core or existence.
Well, you mentioned the core existence, right? And that's something, that's just a big word, but it's true. We all have this, and there's people that are struggling, some of us, not able to, get where we want to be, and you feel the pressure. And so how do we get to this spot to say, hey, I need some help, and, to reach out to you and ask for help? That's got to be a hard thing sometimes for families and for the older students who do it themselves. But could you share a little bit about that?
Well, I think we talked about it just briefly when we first met, our first episode together. But, I had our daughter at 38. And for me, I had been in education since I was 17. And when I was thinking about, the day I become a mother, I had all of this idea that I would know this and they would want to learn this and it would be so great and they will have all of this. And I remember the day when I birth to Paige, my birth plan was out the window. There's known of that. She came 2 weeks early. And I just remember holding her and going, okay, all right, there's this human, right? And all I did want for her in that moment was I just wanted to make sure I did it right. And in my mind, I think that matrix of what is right started to flood, despite the fact that I had all of this experience and all of this time with kids all of these years. There was that sensation of, do I know what is right for this human that I'm holding now, that I'm now responsible for? And I think there are many parents that can relate to that idea of, are we doing it right? And it brings us back to the concept that we talked about before, is about finding resources to support those questions. Just as we engage our children and invite them to ask questions when they're not sure of something, it really is that idea of what aren't you sure of as a parent? And what support do you have to answer those questions? And do you feel free enough to ask those questions?
Well, it's a little overwhelming for me. My kid, as I know we spoke, and our kids are similar ages. Mine's in first grade, one's in fourth grade. And I could only imagine, how much harder it's going to get. And it's hard to tackle this stuff by myself.
Yeah. And, it's really difficult. We like my husband and I had recently gone through our separation and navigating that world of divorce and all of those things. And that adds an additional aspect on relationship and child rearing and growth. And I think one of the biggest things is that many parents can be navigating, whether it's like turbulent times in relationship, or maybe it's single parenting, or maybe it's just working collaboratively as your unity of family. And then you also add the innocence of child inside of that. I can tell you authentically, yesterday, my daughter was, she had these dreams of becoming a gymnast and she wanted to do gymnastics, but now she loathes it. And I made the decision, well, we don't have to go twice a week. We can try it out and just drop it down to one. So yesterday was our day that she would have normally gone to gymnastics. And I said, well, I'm still going to pick you up early and I'm going to get home and I'll work from home. Well, that was a total crush and shambles because I can't work with Peppa Pig in the background. That's very difficult. And inevitably, she ended up wanting to watch her iPad, but not her school curriculum iPad. And we had a conversation that you would normally be at gymnastics at this time. So if you're not wanting to do gymnastics, then you really need to find something constructive to do. Now, that sounded really great rolling off my tongue, but my daughter, who was 8 years old, did not find it to be as great. And it ended up being a catastrophe of, why won't you let me watch my iPad? I just need to unwind, mommy. I just need to have some time. And in my mind, I was thinking, well, I hear what she's saying, but I also know that she needs support with her literacy, her language, and she needs to get things going. And it was this battle that I was having with this 8-year-old and my own self, knowing I hear her and I want to hear her, but knowing what the expectations are for her, and also knowing what she would be doing in the space and time if I hadn't listened to idea. And now I'm fighting for all these different concepts and all these thoughts are going through my mind. Finally, I ended up just becoming quiet and she became louder. And I remember her saying to me last night, those coveted words, why are you doing this to me? As a parent, that's extremely hard to hear. And I had to tell her, I'm not. I really just want you to understand that time is so valuable. The long end of that story is I ended up having a conversation with her and saying, there are many other things you can replace the computer with. And I'd like us to sit down and just think about alternatives so we can think about what would be a better replacement than just watching the iPad. And in her words, she just said, Mommy, I just really would prefer to spend time with you. And it's those kind of crushing words that as a parent, we have all these different ideas of what we think our children need to do and want to do. And they may retaliate because they don't have the language or ability to be able to really just simply articulate they want that time with you. And, we like to bike ride when we find that time. So her big thing was, Mommy, I just love when I get to bike ride with you. I just love when, you sit down and you read me your books or do things. I just like your voice. And I saw the innocence of what she was asking. And then I also was able to kind of separate what I'm mentally feeling and go back to that place of when I was holding her when she was born and saying, I just want her to be happy. So I think it's really about just the ability to revert back to what we know in our heart we want for our children. And after we started having a conversation and laughing about that, she helped me fold some things. And then we ended up looking at a book and we ended up talking about this crazy little book that she got from the library. And it was so organic and it didn't require me to have to ask her to do it. She got it for me. And it was because I leaned into just that time with her. It's a difficult thing being a parent, and it's more difficult nowadays being a parent if you have a matrix or a lens that isn't traditional. And it's interesting how the dynamic of parenthood has shifted, but the foundation of childhood hasn't, right? So, you mentioned that it's difficult doing it by yourself with your two that are with one in grade 4. Like, how does that experience resonate with you? Or do you feel like you can understand that part too?
Oh, well, I just love what you mentioned. You brought about the iPad and the whole, they make you feel guilty. I got the other day, Mom, you ruined it because I wouldn't let him stay on the iPad. So his game, stopped. So I got the whole, Mom, you ruined it, and the blame on me and the yelling and the fit. And then it's like, what am I doing wrong? And you get to the point where you want to explode and you try to calm. And there's only so much you could talk to a 9-year-old and 7-year-old sometime about like, hey, we have to go take our baths now. The iPads have to go down. I did ask you, I give you 1 chance, 2 chance, 3 chances. It should happen on the first chance, And It's amazing because the next night I handled it a little bit differently when the same exact thing happened. I just got quiet, like you said, and I walked away. And guess who followed? It's all about our behavior and how we interact with them as well. Getting angry, which is what I do a lot, back and it sets the fire, it makes it even worse. So I'm just learning, my own parenting skills as well as yours, which set me on this tangent just now. But it makes me really think about that because, and then we're going on vacation next week because it's my girlfriend's wedding. And so it's, we have to bring our schoolwork with us. We have to do it every day. The last time we did this 2 years ago, you weren't so happy to do your homework, but we're going to do it. We're going to do it together. We're going to do it early. We're going to start before we leave. Yeah. So it's like this discipline thing I'm just trying my best with, but it's never easy, right? Never is.
It's hard. It's hard. And I ask you the question, and I employ my clients and even myself to ask and reflect about the idea of where do you think the idea of them needing to do their work on their holiday comes from? Like, where does that, like, if you're going away for, what is it, a week or 4 days?
Yeah, it's like 6 days. Yeah. So they'll miss 4 days of school because of the holiday. So they'll miss 4 days.
So where does it come from that the idea, if for some reason your children didn't do that work on those 4 days, that's something, fill in the blank. Like, where does your idea come from?
Oh, the idea comes from, I believe in hard work ethic and doing your schoolwork. And, people might say, well, we shouldn't take them out of school, but this is an important event. They're still young. It's stuff I could go over with them and their math and spell. It's not too difficult. It's not, they're doing, algebra and calculus right now. So it's okay. But it's from a place where I never had a parent who forced me to do my work. I always excelled on my own, but no one ever was there for me. So I'm there for them, the overachiever, wanting to make sure I'm trying to teach them the importance and the value of education, of their responsibilities coming before anything. And you're taking them on vacation. No, like the teacher even said, you could just make it up when he gets back. And I said, oh no, he's going to do it. I got the option from one of the teachers. I said, no, I want them to be able to realize they're going to work while they're away.
Yeah, and it's a construct, right? Like and thank you for sharing that, because I know that my desire is similar in that I was conditioned as a child to make sure that my studies always came first. And if you were letting something go, I was never allowed to quit. So the idea that even letting her not do the 2 days a week of gymnastics after something she wanted to do was a difficult decision that I wanted to honor for her, but let her know that she made that commitment on that team and she still has to do it. But it wasn't a replacement to say, now you'll just sit and do the iPad, right? It had to be something in my mind that still was of value. But what I had to look at was, what is my definition of value, right? And is it in alignment to her, or is it actually causing her to just retaliate? So I hear very much like the idea of that they're going on the trip, that they that you have the strength and ability to be able to support them on that process. But in their mind, they're like, it's a trip and I want to just have a good time, right? And I don't want to do my work. And what I have done in past with parents that go on trips, and I have one that's going to Europe for 4 weeks, is I said, what about if we were to take, let's say it's a math assignment or a writing assignment or whatever, and we're to incorporate what they would have done in textbook or whatever and make it part of their actual holiday. So for example, if you're going somewhere sunny and hot, maybe, and part of their work is to write, a daily journal. And the daily journal might be something, a reflection of what they did for that day. Maybe give them an old school throwaway camera where they're going to have to print those pictures later and then add it. And then they go to school when they return and talk about something, an element. Maybe it was about the ecosystem they learned about, or maybe it was a cultural thing they discovered. Or if it was having to do math, maybe they had to, determine what the bill would be after a really awesome dinner at a restaurant, and they had to add up all the food pieces, right? So getting them to do active engagement and learning. And that will give them more skills than actually the idea of it will still give them the discipline of doing it, but it will allow them to see that throughout that discipline was so organic that actually applied to their everyday work, right?
Beautifully said. All right. Well, hold on to remind everyone who we're talking to. And I love how we just go on tangents. Go ahead.
Yeah, but
it's important. It's important. Go ahead.
So it's Paula Howell from Howell Academics. howellacademics.com, and you can reach me on 778-628-0204, and that's in Vancouver, BC. But you can also email me at paulahowell@howellacademics.com.
Awesome. Thank you. What else did you want to share with everyone today?
Well, I think it's interesting because you're so easy to speak with, and it's so refreshing because in an everyday world of life, we don't get much opportunity to speak business mom to mom, and then have these kind of candid conversations.
Yes.
Honest conversations, right? Like, this is not scripted. We didn't sit down and kind of think about what we talk about today. It just is what it is.
We just flow. We go with the flow.
Yeah. So I kind of look at it as, I don't drink coffee because I don't even know what I would be like if I drink coffee. But I kind of am looking forward to this as my Thursday morning coffee time with you and having these conversations and unpacking. But 2 kids is different. I have 1, and 2 would be different because they would probably play off each other, right? So that's like 2 against 1 in that arena. But with that said, I'm often very curious about what as parents really think about when they think about kind of the outcome of all they do. Like, what do you think about as a mom who's got these 2 children who are relatively close in age, and the imprints or ideas that we're leaving on them, right? Like, how much do we think about that? I know I think about it all the time. I'm just curious whether your thoughts are and how you think about that. About the imprint, about what legacy you're leaving for them. That's always the question that is one that is prominent in admissions, right? Like, what are your goals for your child? What is the legacy you want for your child? Where do you see your child in 15 years, right? That's the number one question that's always asked. And do you have a frame for that?
It's funny because my parents never, they didn't have money to pay for college. They didn't have money for my first car. So I always worked a lot. So I'm trying to instill in my children, some of their friends have cars, college funds. And I'm like, hey, we're not that way either. I said, your mom works hard, but I'm going to try my best. But, I part of me is like, I had to work hard. I want to teach them what it's like to work hard. And they're going to have to work hard to obtain it. They're going to have to take out college loans because there's no way I'll be able to afford 2 colleges by myself. But, so I just want them to walk away with the work ethic that it is important to work, to focus, and everything is being calculated. Like your even your penmanship from when you learn to write. My one son is a little sloppy, and I'm like, it's horrible. My first grader writes better than the 4th grader. Everyone's different. Hate to be hard on him, but I'm like, these things matter. It shows your ability. It shows your people are going to judge you. And I'm trying to bring them into the big world. I maybe tell them too much, but I just rather them know everything to try to be prepared for that. But I want them to be successful, sustainable, and to realize they need to start saving money, right? Even the money they get from their birthday parties, take half. I want to teach them how to save money because my parents never instilled that aspect on me at all. It's important to save money. We were always spending. So I'm just trying to teach them everything I didn't know, right? And then I guess the next generation does the same.
Yeah, it's cycle. It's like it was really interesting how what I've realized is that financial facility, they don't talk about it in even high school, really, right? Just those everyday basics. And so that's a really good anchor that you're starting to infuse within them. And that idea of just making sure that they're prepared for real life situations. What I remember that was really interesting, I think it was on our second session, and you had talked about that you were one of the first in your family to even go to college and university and achieve where you achieved academically. But you're doing something that you love, despite that it's different than what you studied. Yeah. And what I love about that messaging is something that is so important, is that despite your discipline, despite your ability to rise above all those challenges you had, you still ended up doing something that you love doing. And your education and all of that doesn't go away. Yeah. And that's the part that I hope that parents can see, is that university, better schools, or applying for that for your child, or doing that work is not necessarily going to be the anchor of their success, but you're infusing those disciplines, those standards that are allowing your child to have choice, right? And that their academics, their ideas, their perceptions get challenged, but ultimately they can be whoever they want to be because they've given themselves choice. Yeah. Right? It was interesting, just briefly, it was a Mother's Day. No, it was a Thanksgiving about 2 years ago. And my daughter, I guess around there, was about 6.5 because she's a January baby. And we went to a very fancy place for Thanksgiving. And, there was a doorman that even opened the door at the hotel.
Aww.
And she was like, oh, how come he's opening the door and doing different things?
Yeah.
And we sat down at a very, very fancy restaurant. And we had a conversation because she said, Mommy, like my eggs look really fancy. Everything looks very fancy. And I said, yeah. And she said, some of my friends are just going to like a regular place. Like she called it a regular place for dinner. And I said, yeah. Everyone has a choice on where they want to go. But coming to a place like this, Paige, it's still food, right? It's still food. Food is food. But there's an experience that you can have, right? And there are different people that do those experiences. There's someone that's cooking. There's someone that is opening the door for us. There are different experiences. But you know what the biggest thing is, Paige? There's somebody that even owns this hotel. And every single person in here has a part in it, but there's somebody that actually owns the hotel. And I said, you know what the difference is that the difference of the person who owns the hotel maybe could have been that they did many of those other pieces that allowed them now to understand how they all worked. True. And now they own the hotel. And I said, so sometimes in life, it's about learning as much as you can with the opportunities so that you can have the choice, whether you want to be the door person, whether you want to be the chef, whether you want to be the person who owns the hotel. It's limitless. Wow. But you have to be the one to be able to make that choice. And the only thing that gives you choice is to be focused and finish things and complete things. And it was like getting her to see those connections in everyday experiences are the things that I find impact her more than when I share things with her. It's the same thing. Mommy, I just wanted to spend time with you. I get caught up. Maybe it's because I'm 46 now and I'm still like on my old school line space of the things.
Yeah.
I get caught up in just my fragment of what I remember. But I forget sometimes. And it's easy to forget because we want the best for them. Have the answers.
Thank you for that. And we still have just 3 minutes left in the show.
Okay.
It always goes so fast. What else do we need to know?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that, I realize that there's an opportunity for parents to want to kind of gather information on how best to support their children through the admissions process organically on their own. So we have created like an admissions academy hub. Where parents could now just be able to get access to videos, downloads, different cheat sheets to help them navigate the admissions world. And then there's always the opportunity to book a complimentary discovery call with me to really find out and create that blueprint. And that's at howellacademics.com.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. And this is 'tis the season, as they say, right, for you. And you have a special going on now, right? I do. And that... Oh, it just ended. It was the end of September.
End of September, but we're thinking of throwing it back out there again, just because in the light of, parents and still wanting to give them access and giving them initiative to kind of think about having that access, we're thinking of extending it a bit longer as well.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. And if we want to reach out, tell us one more time how we could do so.
So we can connect through email on Paula Howell at howellacademics.com. Or also through telephone 778-628-0204, or just, I guess, tune in and hear us next week.
Sounds good. Well, I'm off next week, so I don't know if they told you that. So I don't know if they'll have you with somebody else.
Is that the holiday? The holiday?
Yeah, it's for the wedding. So it's I'll be in Turks and Caicos. So I don't know if they told you yet, but unless they have you with somebody else. But if not, I'll see you the week after.
I will wait for that. I was hoping maybe I get a cheat of your background in Turks and Caicos. That would be really fun. We'll have an awesome time. I guess I'll see you back all tanned. You got it. I hope so. A little bit. All right. Thank you so much. Awesome holiday. I appreciate it. You have a great day, and we'll talk soon. And wait, isn't it your Thanksgiving coming up soon? It's our Thanksgiving in about the 13th. So I guess we've got next week. Yeah. Well, happy Thanksgiving if I don't see you. Yeah. Thank you. We'll have lots to share on our return chats. Sounds good. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure, hon. Bye-bye. You too. Bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C. Take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D. Help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.